In the fog-choked port of Blackwater, where the sea whispers secrets no sailor dares repeat, Eldric Voss, a haunted mapmaker, uncovers a relic that shouldn't exist, a glowing obsidian map leading to the mythical lighthouse at the end of all. Maps, drawn by his pull, he's plunged into a world where the sea is alive, the sky watches, and a door to a void threatens to unravel reality. Pursued by a stranger with amber eyes and hunted by shadows that aren't human, Eldric, with tavern girl Lila and her sailor brother Thom, must navigate a tide of lost souls and ancient curses to decide, will he open the door to end the world, or fight to keep it closed?
Chapter 1. The mapmaker's secret. Eldric Voss stood at the edge of his cluttered shop, his fingers tracing the brittle edges of a map so old it seemed to hum with secrets. The air in Blackwater Port was thick with salt and the faint rot of seaweed, carried on a wind that never stopped howling. His shop, tucked between a tavern and a net mender's shack, was a maze of shelves stuffed with scrolls, star charts, and nautical logs. Dust motes danced in the slivers of grey light that slipped through the cracked shutters. Eldric, with his silver-streaked beard and eyes like chipped flint, was no ordinary mapmaker. He was the last of his kind, or so he believed, and his maps were not just paper and ink, they were keys to places no ship should ever find. The bell above the door jingled, a sharp sound that cut through the quiet. A stranger stepped inside, his boots heavy on the warped floorboards. He was tall, cloaked, in black, with a face half hidden by a hood. His eyes, though, were impossible to miss, bright as polished amber, glowing faintly in the dimness. Eldric's heart stuttered. He'd seen eyes like that before, long ago, in a dream he'd tried to forget. "You're Voss," the stranger said, not a question. His voice was low, like the rumble of distant thunder. "I need a map." Eldric forced a smile, though his hands trembled as he shuffled papers on his counter. "Plenty of maps here. Where are you sailing? The iron reefs, the shattered isles." The stranger leaned forward, his shadow swallowing the candlelight. "I need the map. The one you don't show anyone. The one that leads to the lighthouse." Eldric froze, his mouth went dry, and the room seemed to tilt, as if the whole shop had slipped beneath a wave. The lighthouse at the end of all maps was a myth, a sailor's tale whispered in ale-soaked taverns. It was said to stand on an island that didn't exist, where the sea met the sky and the stars burned cold. No one knew its purpose, only that those who sought it never returned. Eldric had heard the stories since he was a boy, but he'd never spoken of the map he kept hidden, not to anyone. "I don't know what you're talking about," Eldric said, his voice thin. He busied himself with a stack of charts, hoping the stranger would leave. The man's hand shot out, quick as a striking snake, and grabbed Eldric's wrist. His grip was cold, unnaturally so, like iron left out in a winter storm. "Don't lie to me, mapmaker. I know you have it. My master has waited long enough." Eldric yanked his hand free, his heart pounding. "Who are you? Who sent you?" The stranger's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "My master is older than the sea itself. He knows your secret, Voss. He knows what you found all those years ago." Eldric's mind raced back to that night, 20 years past, when he'd been a young sailor aboard the Starless Hope. They'd been caught in a storm, the kind that tore ships apart and left no trace. He'd washed ashore on a jagged spit of rock, half dead, clutching a piece of driftwood. There, in the shadow of a cliff, he'd found a map carved into a slab of obsidian, its lines glowing faintly under the moon. It showed no known lands, only a spiral of strange symbols leading to a single point marked by a tower. He'd taken it, hidden it, and told no one, not even his wife Mara, before she'd died of fever last winter. "How do you know about that?" Eldric whispered, his voice barely audible over the wind rattling the shutters. The stranger stepped closer, his amber eyes boring into Eldric's. "Because my master sees all things, mapmaker. He sees the paths you've walked, and the ones you fear to tread. Show me the map, or I'll take it from you." Eldric's hand drifted toward the knife hidden under the counter, but something in the stranger's gaze stopped him. It wasn't just fire, it was the weight of something vast, something that made the world feel small and fragile. He thought of Mara, her warm laugh, her hand in his. He thought of the map, locked in a chest beneath the floorboards, its strange glow haunting his dreams. If he gave it up, what would happen? If he didn't, would this stranger kill him? Before he could decide, the door burst open again. This time, it was Lila, the tavern girl from next door. Her dark hair was wild, her apron streaked with ale. "Eldric, come quick." The Harbrit's gone mad. The stranger turned, his cloak swirling, and Eldric seized the moment. He ducked behind the counter, his fingers fumbling for the hidden latch in the floor. The chest was there, heavy and cold, its lock rusted but strong. He didn't dare open it now, not with the stranger so close. Instead, he grabbed a random map from the counter, a chart of the Iron Reef sand, thrust it toward the man. "Take this and go," Eldric said, his voice steadier than he felt. "It's all I have." The stranger's eyes narrowed, but before he could speak, Lila grabbed Eldric's arm. "Now, Eldric." The sight's glowing. Eldric stumbled out after her, the stranger's gaze burning into his back. The street outside was chaos. Fishermen and sailors crowded the docks, their shouts mingling with the crash of waves. The harbor was alive with light, not the soft glow of lanterns, but a pulsing, sickly green that seemed to rise from the water itself. It swirled in patterns, like the symbols on Eldric's hidden map, curling and twisting as if alive. "What is it?" Lila whispered, her eyes wide. Eldric's stomach churned. He'd seen that light before, on the night he'd found the map. It wasn't natural. It wasn't of this world. He glanced back at his shop, half expecting the stranger to be there, but the doorway was empty. The man was gone, or so he hoped. "We need to get to the cliffs," Eldric said, his voice hoarse. "I need to see it from above." Lila hesitated, then nodded. She was young, barely 19, but tough as the barnacles that clung to the pier. Together, they pushed through the crowd, past the tavern where men were already spinning wild tales of sea monsters and cursed tides. The path to the cliffs was steep, winding up from the harbor to a jagged ridge that overlooked the sea. The wind tore at Eldric's coat, and the green light pulsed brighter, casting eerie shadows on the rocks. At the cliff's edge, Eldric stopped, his breath catching. The sea was a living thing, its surface writhing with light. Far out, where the horizon should have been, there was something else, a shape, faint but unmistakable. A tower, tall and thin, its peak glowing with the same sickly light. The lighthouse. It was real, and it was closer than it should have been. Lila clutched his arm. "Eldric, what is that?" He didn't answer. His mind was racing, piecing together fragments of memory. The map, the storm, the stranger's amber eyes, his master, older than the sea. Eldric had spent years convincing himself the map was a relic, a curiosity, nothing more. But now, with the sea glowing and the lighthouse looming, he knew he'd been wrong. The map wasn't just a guide, it was a summons. "We need to go back," he said, turning to Lila. "I have to get something from the shop." But as they descended the cliff path, a new sound rose above the wind, a low, keening wail, like 1,000 voices crying out at once. It came from the sea, from the direction of the lighthouse. The crowd on the docks froze, their faces pale. Fishermen dropped their nets, mothers clutched their children. Even the gulls fell silent. Eldric's heart pounded. He knew that sound. He'd heard it in his dreams, night after night, since he'd found the map. It was the sound of something waking, something vast and ancient and hungry, and it was calling his name. Back at the shop, Eldric barred the door and sent Lila to fetch her brother, Thom, a sailor who'd always been kind to him. He needed help, someone he could trust. Alone, he knelt by the floorboards and pried open the hidden compartment. The chest was there, its wood blackened as if burned. His hands shook as he unlocked it, revealing the obsidian slab inside. The map glowed faintly, its spiral of symbols pulsing in time with the light outside. At its center was the lighthouse, etched in lines that seemed to move when he wasn't looking. Eldric traced the symbols, his fingers tingling. They weren't just lines, they were a language, one he couldn't read but somehow understood. They spoke of endings, of edges, of a place where the world unraveled. The lighthouse wasn't just a building, it was a door, and something on the other side was trying to get through. A knock at the door made him jump. It was Thom, his broad shoulders filling the frame, his face grim. "Lila told me what's happening." "What's going on, Eldric?" "What's that light?" Eldric hesitated, then showed him the map. Thom's eyes widened, but he didn't flinch. "You've seen it, haven't you?" Eldric asked. "Out at sea, something that doesn't belong." Thom nodded slowly. "Last year, on a run to the Shattered Isles, a fog came up, thick as soup. We saw a light, green like that one, and a shape in the distance. The crew swore it was a trick of the mist, but I knew better. It felt wrong." Eldric closed the chest, his decision made. "We need to go to it, to the lighthouse. If we don't, it'll come to us." Thom stared at him, then nodded again. I've got a boat. Small, but sturdy. We can leave at dawn. No, Eldric said. We go, tonight, before that stranger comes back. As they prepared to leave, Eldric couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The wind carried whispers, faint and fleeting, like voices from a dream. He thought of the stranger's words. My master is older than the sea itself. Whatever was out there, it wasn't human, and it wanted the map. The boat was ready by midnight, a single-masted sloop called the Wanderer. Lila insisted on coming, despite Eldric's protests. You'll need someone to keep you two fools alive, she said, her jaw set. Eldric didn't argue. There was a fire in her eyes, the same fire he'd seen in Mara's. He handed her a lantern, its flame steady despite the wind. They pushed off from the dock, the green light guiding them. The sea was restless, waves slapping the hull like angry hands. Eldric clutched the map, its glow warm against his skin. The lighthouse loomed larger now, its silhouette sharp against the starless sky. The wail grew louder, a chorus of despair. That made his bones ache. As they sailed, Eldric told Thom and Lila about the map, the storm, the stranger. He told them about the dreams that had plagued him, visions of a tower that reached into the void, its light swallowing the stars. He didn't tell them everything, though. He didn't tell them about the voice in his dreams, the one that called him by name and promised answers. Answers to what? He didn't know. Hours passed, the sea growing wilder. The green light pulsed faster, like a heartbeat. Then, through the spray and mist, they saw the island. It was small, a jagged scar of rock rising from the waves. At its center stood the lighthouse, its stone black as night, its beacon blazing with unnatural light. It was taller than any tower had a right to be, its spire piercing the clouds. They anchored the Wanderer and waded ashore, the water icy against their legs. The island was silent, save for the wail, which seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The ground was slick with moss, and strange carvings covered the rock spires and stars, like the ones on the map. Eldric led the way, the map clutched to his chest. The lighthouse's door was iron, rusted but heavy, with no handle or lock. He pressed his hand against it, and the metal grew warm, as if alive. The door swung open with a groan, revealing a spiral staircase that stretched upward into darkness. Inside, the air was thick, heavy with the scent of salt and something sharper, like burned metal. The walls were carved with more symbols, glowing. Faintly, Eldric's heart raced. This was no myth. This was real, and he was standing at the edge of the world. Eldric, Lila whispered, her voice trembling. What is this place? He didn't answer. He couldn't. The map was burning in his hands now, its glow brighter than ever. The wail was deafening, a scream that echoed in his skull. He took a step onto the staircase, then another. Thom and Lila followed, their lanterns casting long shadows. At the top was a chamber, vast and circular, its ceiling lost in shadow. At its center stood a lantern, larger than any Eldric had ever seen, its glass cracked but intact. The green light poured from it, pulsing in time with the map. And there, standing beside it, was the stranger. You brought it, he said, his amber eyes gleaming. Good. My master will be pleased. Eldric stepped back, clutching the map. Who are you? What do you want? The stranger's smile widened. I am nothing, a servant, but my master. He is everything, and he wants what you hold, the key to the end of all things. Before Eldric could respond, the lantern flared, its light blinding. The wail became a roar, and the floor shook. Lila screamed, Thom shouted, but their voices were lost in the chaos. Eldric fell to his knees, the map slipping from his hands. It hit the floor, and the world went white. When his vision cleared, the stranger was gone. The lantern was dark, the wail silent, but the map was still there, its glow faint but steady. Eldric picked it up, his hands shaking. He looked at Thom and Lila, their faces pale but alive. We need to leave, Thom said, his voice rough. Now Eldric nodded, but as they descended the staircase, he knew it wasn't over. The lighthouse had let them in, but it hadn't let them go. The map was still in his hands, and the stranger's words echoed in his mind. The key to the end of all things. They sailed back to Blackwater Port in silence, the sea calm but heavy, as if holding its breath. The green light was gone, but Eldric could still feel it, like a shadow in his bones. He didn't know what the lighthouse was, or what the stranger's master wanted, but he knew one thing. The map was his burden now, and it would lead him back to that tower, whether he wanted it or not. Chapter 2. Whispers in the fog. The wanderer cut through the glassy sea, its sails limp under a sky heavy with clouds. Eldric Voss gripped the ship's rail, his knuckles white, the obsidian map tucked inside his coat. The air was thick, damp, and cold, clinging to his skin like a second shadow. Blackwater Port was a faint smudge on the horizon behind them, swallowed by a fog that had rolled in at dawn, silent and sudden. It wasn't a natural fog knot, the kind that drifted off the iron reefs or curled around the shattered isles. This fog pulsed, alive with faint glimmers of green, like the light they'd seen in the harbor the night before. It muffled sound, swallowed light, and made the world feel small, as if the sea itself had shrunk to the size of their little boat. Lila stood at the helm, her dark hair plastered to her face by the damp. Her hands were steady, but her eyes darted to the fog, searching for shapes that weren't there. Thom, her brother, checked the rigging, his broad frame tense. He hadn't spoken much since they'd left the lighthouse, but Eldric could see the weight in his shoulders, the way his hands lingered on the ropes, as if he needed something solid to hold on to. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the creak of the boat and the soft slap of waves. Eldric's mind churned. The lighthouse had been reel to reel. The stranger's amber eyes, the glowing map, the wail that shook his bones. He'd thought escaping the island would end it, but the map felt heavier now, its warmth seeping through his coat. He hadn't looked at it since they'd fled, afraid of what he might see. The symbols, those twisting spirals and stars, had moved in the lantern's light, as if alive. He couldn't shake the stranger's words, the key to the end of all things. What did it mean? And why did he feel like the fog was watching him? Eldric, Lila called, her voice sharp but low, as if afraid to wake something. You see that? He followed her gaze. Ahead, the fog parted just enough to reveal a faint shape, a jagged outline, like a broken tooth rising from the sea. It wasn't the lighthouse. It was too small, too sharp. A rock, maybe, or a wreck. But as they drifted closer, stomach twisted. The shape wasn't stone or wood. It was bone, massive and curved, like the rib of some ancient beast, half submerged and glistening with slime. The fog curled around it, and for a moment, Eldric swore he saw it move, a slow flexing, as if it still lived. Thom joined them, his face pale. That's no reef, he muttered. I've sailed these waters my whole life, never seen anything like that. Eldric's hand went to the map, his fingers brushing its edge. The warmth pulsed, stronger now, in time with the faint green glimmers in the fog. We need to keep moving, he said, his voice rough. Whatever that is, we don't want to be near it. Lila nodded, adjusting the helm, but the fog seemed to fight her, thickening until the bone shape vanished. The air grew colder, and a low hum began, so faint it was more felt than heard. It vibrated in Eldric's chest, like the echo of the lighthouse's wail. He glanced at Thom, who was staring at the water, his jaw tight. You hear that? Thom asked. Eldric nodded. Lila's hands tightened on the helm. It's coming from everywhere, she whispered. The hum grew louder, shaping itself into words, not clear, not yet, but close. Eldric strained to listen, his heart pounding. It was his name, woven into the sound, faint but unmistakable. Come. The map burned against his chest, and he yanked his hand away, as if stung. We're not alone out here, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Thom grabbed a lantern, holding it high, but its light barely cut through the fog. What do you mean there's nothing out there? But there was. Eldric felt it, the same way he'd felt the stranger's gaze in his shop. Something was in the fog, watching, waiting. He pulled the map from his coat, unable to resist any longer. Its glow was brighter now, the symbols writhing like eels. The spiral at its center pointed forward, toward the bone shape they'd seen, and beyond it, to where the lighthouse had stood. Lila gasped. Eldric, what is that thing doing? He didn't answer. He couldn't. The map was pulling him, not just his eyes but his whole body, like a tide dragging him under. He stumbled to the bow, holding the map out, its light cutting through the fog like a blade. The bone shape reappeared, closer now, and it wasn't alone. Other shapes loomed more, bones, twisted and massive, forming an archway over the water. The hum grew louder, the words clearer. Eldric, bring it. The door. We need to turn back, Thom said, his voice sharp. He grabbed Eldric's shoulder, but Eldric shook him off. No, he said, his eyes locked on the map. We can't. It won't let us." "What won't?" Lila demanded, her voice rising. "Eldric, you're scaring me. What's going on?" He didn't know how to explain it. The map, the lighthouse, the stranger's master. It was all connected, but the pieces didn't fit. "Not yet. Just keep sailing," he said. "Follow the map." Lila stared at him, then at the glowing slab in his hands. "That thing's cursed, isn't it?" Eldric didn't answer. He didn't need to. The fog answered for him, parting suddenly to reveal a stretch of sea unlike any they'd ever seen. The water was still mirror smooth, reflecting a sky that wasn't there, a sky full of stars that twisted and pulsed, not like the stars above Blackwater Port, but like eyes, watching. The bonarch loomed closer, its surface carved with the same symbols as the map. The hum was a chorus now, 1,000 voices whispering in unison, and Eldric felt them in his blood, pulling him forward. Thom grabbed the helm from Lila, trying to turn the boat, but the wanderer didn't respond. The current had them, stronger than it should have been, dragging them toward the arch. "Eldric, do something!" Thom shouted. Eldric's hands shook. As he held the map, the symbols were moving faster now, rearranging themselves into new patterns. He didn't understand them, but he felt their meaning, like a memory he'd forgotten. They spoke of a journey, a path that began where the world ended. The lighthouse wasn't just a place, it was a beginning, or an end, or both. The wanderer passed under the arch, and the world changed. The fog vanished, replaced by a twilight that wasn't day or night. The sea was black, not with depth, but with absence, as if it wasn't water at all, but a void. The stars above were wrong, too bright, too close, their light cold and sharp. The hum was gone, replaced by a silence so deep it hurt. Eldric's breath caught, his chest tight. Lila and Thom stood frozen, their faces pale, their lanterns dim. "Where are we?" Lila whispered. Eldric didn't know. The map was still glowing, but its symbols had settled, pointing to a single point ahead. There, in the distance, was the lighthouse, its green light pulsing like a heart. It was closer than before, its tower sharper, its presence heavier. Eldric felt it pulling him, not just the map, but his own blood, as if he'd been born to come here. "We shouldn't be here," Thom said, his voice shaking. "This isn't right." But Eldric was already moving, climbing to the bow, the map clutched to his chest. "We have to keep going," he said. "There's no turning back." Lila grabbed his arm, her fingers digging into his skin. Listen to me. That thing, that map, it's doing something to you. You're not yourself." He looked at her, her face blurred by the strange light. She was right. In a way, he felt different, like a piece of him was slipping away, replaced by something else. But he couldn't stop. The map wouldn't let him. The lighthouse wouldn't let him. The wanderer drifted closer to the island, the sea unnaturally calm. The bonarch was behind them now, but its shadow lingered, heavy and cold. Eldric could still feel the whispers, though they were fainter now, woven into the silence. He thought of Mara, her smile, her voice. He thought of the stranger, his amber eyes promising answers. He thought of the lighthouse, its light calling him like a moth to a flame dot. As they neared the shore, the island came into focus. It was larger than before, its rocks sharper, its cliffs steeper. The lighthouse stood at its center, its black stone gleaming like wet ink. The carvings on the rocks were clearer now, their spirals and stars glowing faintly, matching the map. Eldric stepped onto the shore, his boots sinking into the slick moss. Lila and Thom followed, their faces grim but resolute. The door to the lighthouse was open, its iron surface reflecting the green light. Eldric didn't hesitate this time. He stepped inside, the map burning in his hands. The spiral staircase stretched upward, its walls pulsing with symbols. The air was heavier now, thick with the scent of salt and something older, like dust from a forgotten tomb. At the top was the same chamber, the lantern at its center dark but humming faintly. The stranger wasn't there, but his presence lingered, like a shadow just out of sight. Eldric approached the lantern, the map guiding him. Its glass was colder now, its cracks deeper, as if it had aged 100 years in a single night. "Eldric," Lila said, her voice sharp, "don't touch it." But he did. His hand pressed against the glass, and the lantern flared to life, its green light flooding the chamber. The symbols on the map exploded into motion, spiraling upward, etching themselves into the air. The floor shook, the wail returned, louder than before, and Eldric saw a vision, clear and sharp, of a sea that wasn't a sea, a sky that wasn't a sky, and a door that led to nowhere. He staggered back, the map falling from his hands. Lila caught him, her arms strong despite her fear. "What did you see?" she demanded. Eldric's voice was hoarse, barely his own. "The end," he said. "The end of everything." Thom grabbed the map, shoving it into his coat. "We're leaving now." But as they turned to go, the door slammed shut. The light pulsed faster, the wail grew louder, and the chamber seemed to shrink, the walls closing in. Eldric's heart pounded, his mind racing. The map had brought them here, but it wasn't done with them. The lighthouse wasn't done with them, and somewhere, in the dark, the stranger's master was waiting. Chapter 3: The Keeper's Warning. The lighthouse chamber pulsed with green light, its walls alive with writhing symbols that seemed to claw at the air. Eldric Voss stood frozen, his breath shallow, the echo of his vision still burning in his minder. Sea that wasn't a sea, a sky that wasn't a sky, and a door leading to a void. The map, now in Thom's hands, glowed faintly through his coat, its warmth a constant pull, like a tide dragging them deeper into the unknown. Lila's grip on Eldric's arm was tight, her face pale but fierce, her eyes darting to the iron door that had slammed shut behind them. The wail, that bone-shaking chorus of despair, throbbed in their chests, louder now, as if the lighthouse itself was alive and angry. "We're trapped," Thom said, his voice low, his broad shoulders hunched against the weight of the chamber. He clutched the map tighter, as if it might leap from his hands. "That door's not budging." Eldric shook his head, trying to clear the fog in his mind. The vision had left him unsteady, his thoughts tangled like nets in a storm. "There's got to be another way out," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. The air was thick, heavy with salt, and that sharp metallic scent that made his skin crawl. The lantern at the chamber's center hummed, its cracked glass flickering with green light, casting shadows that moved when they shouldn't. Lila stepped toward the lantern, her lantern's flame trembling in her hand. "This thing, it's doing something to us," she said. "I can feel it, like it's pulling at my head." Eldric nodded. He felt it too, a pressure, not just in the air but in his thoughts, like fingers prying at his memories. He thought of Mara, her laugh, her hand in his, but the memory twisted, her face blurring into something else, something with amber eyes. He shook it off, focusing on the chamber. The walls were carved with the same spirals and stars as the map, but now they seemed to pulse, their lines shifting like waves. He reached out, his fingers hovering over a carving, and the stone grew warm, almost alive. "Don't," Thom snapped, grabbing his wrist. "You saw what happened when you touched that lantern. We don't know what this place is." But before Eldric could pull back, a new sound cut through the wail, a low, grinding creak, like stone on stone. The floor shuddered, and a section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow passage that descended into darkness. The green light didn't reach far, but it glinted off something below, metal, or glass, or something wetter. The air from the passage was colder, carrying a whisper that wasn't the wail, but something softer, more human. "Come, deeper." Lila's eyes widened. "Did you hear that?" Thom nodded, his face grim. "We're not going down there. That's madness." Eldric stared into the passage, the map's warmth pulsing against Thom's coat. "We don't have a choice," he said. "The door's sealed, and this place, it wants us to go deeper. Wants us." Lila's voice was sharp, almost a shout. "Eldric, this isn't some fairy tale. This tower, that map, it's not alive. It's a trap." "Maybe," Eldric said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "But we're here now, and I don't think it'll let us go until we find out why." Thom cursed under his breath, but he didn't argue. He knew Eldric was right. The lighthouse wasn't just a building, it was a force, a will, and it had drawn them here for a reason. He handed the map back to Eldric, who took it reluctantly. Its glow brighter now, the symbols pointing downward, toward the passage. They moved cautiously, Eldric leading with the map, its light cutting through the dark. The passage was narrow, its walls slick with moss and carved with more symbols, these ones sharper, like claws or teeth. The air grew colder, the metallic scent stronger, and the whispers grew clearer, forming words that made Eldric's skin prickle. "Keeper key end." The stairs spiraled down, tighter and steeper, until they emerged into a new chamber, smaller than the one above, but no less strange. This chamber was round, its walls lined with shelves that stretched into shadow. The shelves were filled with objects, books, bottles, bones, and things Eldric couldn't name. all glowing faintly with the same green light. At the center stood a figure, hunched and cloaked, facing a stone table covered in maps and charts. The figure didn't turn, but its voice, dry as old paper, filled the room. "You shouldn't be here," it said. "No one should." Eldric's heart skipped. The map burned in his hands, its symbols pulsing in time with his pulse. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice echoing off the walls. The figure turned slowly, its face hidden by a hood, but its eyes glowed faintly. Not amber like the stranger's, but blue, cold as ice. "I am the keeper," it said. "And you are fools, carrying that key into this place." Lila stepped forward, her lantern raised. "What key? This map. What is it?" The keeper's eyes narrowed, and the air grew heavier, as if the chamber itself was breathing. "That is no map. It is a summons, a chain, a door. You've brought it to the edge of the world, and now the world will pay the price." Eldric's stomach churned. "We didn't choose this. A stranger came to my shop, demanded the map. He said his master wanted it." The keeper's laugh was a dry, rattling sound, like bones in a jar. "His master, yes, older than the sea, older than the stars. He has waited long, and you've brought him what he seeks." "Who is he?" Thom demanded, his voice rough. "What does he want?" The keeper stepped closer, its cloak dragging across the floor. "He is the end, the unmaker, the one who waits beyond the door. And what he wants is everything." Eldric's hand tightened on the map. "Then why give it to me? Why let me find it?" The keeper's eyes bore into his, and for a moment, Eldric saw something in them: grief, or fear, or both. "You were not chosen," it said. "You were marked. The map finds those who are broken, those who seek answers they cannot bear. It found you, Eldric Voss, because of your pain." Eldric flinched, thinking of Mara, her fevered eyes, her hand slipping from his. The keeper's words cut deep, but he pushed them aside. "What do we do? How do we stop it?" The keeper turned back to the table, its hands trembling as it traced a chart. "You cannot stop it. The map is awake now, and the lighthouse calls. The door is opening, and what lies beyond will not be denied." Lila's voice was sharp, cutting through the keeper's words. "Then why are you here? If it's hopeless, why stay?" The keeper paused, its head tilting slightly. "Because someone must bear witness. Someone must warn those who come, though none listen. I was like you once, young and foolish, drawn to this place by a map I could not resist. Now I am bound to it, as you will be." Thom stepped forward, his fists clenched. "We're not staying. Tell us how to get out." The keeper pointed to the map in Eldric's hands. "The key will show you the way, but every step takes you closer to the end. Follow it, and you may find a path. Resist it, and it will break you." Eldric looked at the map, its symbols shifting again, pointing to a corner of the chamber where a narrow door stood, half hidden by shadows. The green light pulsed faster, the whispers louder, and he felt the pull again, stronger now, like a hook in his chest. He didn't want to go, but his feet moved anyway, drawn by the map's will. Lila grabbed his arm. "Eldric, we don't know what's down there. This keeper could be lying." "She's right," Thom said. "This place is messing with us. We need to find another way." But Eldric shook his head. "There is no other way. You heard the keeper. The map's awake. It's not letting us go." The keeper's voice followed them as they approached the door. "Beware the shadows on the cliffs," it said. "They are not what they seem." The door creaked open, revealing another staircase, this one leading upward. The air was warmer here, but no less heavy, and the whispers followed them, weaving through the stones. Eldric led the way, the map's glow lighting their path. The stairs were uneven, worn smooth in places, as if countless feet had climbed them before. The walls were carved with scenes, now ships sinking in storms, figures reaching for stars that burned their hands, towers crumbling into seas that boiled with light. At the top was a balcony, open to the strange twilight sky. The island stretched below, its rocks jagged and gleaming, the sea a black void that reflected the twisted stars above. But it was the cliffs that drew Eldric's eye, tall, sharp, and lined with shapes that moved, not like men but like shadows given form. They swayed, their edges blurred, and their eyes amber, like the strangers watched from the darkness. Lila gasped, stepping back. "What are those?" Thom's hand went to the knife at his belt. "Not human, that's for sure." Eldric's heart raced. The map was burning now, its symbols pointing to the cliffs, to a path that wound down to the sea. The whispers were a chorus again, his name woven into their song. "Eldric, come. the door. He took a step forward, then another, the map pulling him like a tide. "Eldric, stop!" Lila shouted, but he barely heard her. The shadows on the cliffs were moving now, gliding toward them, their forms stretching and twisting. The air grew colder, the metallic scent sharper, and the map's glow flared, bathing the balcony in green light. Thom grabbed Eldric, yanking him back. "We're not going that way, not with those things out there." But the shadows were closer now, their amber eyes gleaming. One stepped forward, its form solidifying into the stranger from Eldric's shop, his cloak billowing in a wind that wasn't there. "You cannot run," he said, his voice a low rumble. "The map is yours, but it belongs to my master. Give it to me, or the shadows will take it." Eldric clutched the map, his heart pounding. "What happens if I give it to you?" The stranger's smile was cold, his eyes like burning coals. "The door opens, the end begins." "And if I don't?" Eldric asked, though he already knew the answer. The stranger's hand rose, and the shadows surged forward, their forms dissolving into mist, then reforming, closer, sharper. Lila screamed. Thom drew his knife, and Eldric felt the map pulse, its light blinding. The balcony shook, the cliffs groaned, and the sea below roared, as if the world itself was waking. Eldric made his choice. He turned and ran, not toward the cliffs but back to the staircase, Lila and Thom at his heels. The shadows followed, their whispers a howl now, their eyes burning through the dark. The map was afire in his hands, guiding him, pulling him, and he knew, with a certainty that chilled his blood, that the lighthouse wasn't done with them. The keeper's warning echoed in his mind, "Beware the shadows on the cliffs," and as they fled, the stranger's laughter followed, a sound that promised they would never escape. Chapter 4. Shadows on the cliffs. The staircase spiraled downward, its stone steps slick and uneven under Eldric Voss's boots. The map burned in his hands, its green glow lighting the way, casting jagged shadows on the walls. Lila and Thom ran, close behind, their breaths sharp and ragged, the stranger's laughter echoing from the balcony above. The air was thick, heavy with the metallic temps that clung to their throats, and the whispers, those relentless, hissing voices, grew louder, weaving Eldric's name into a chant that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Eldric, come!" The door. The shadows on the cliffs were behind them, their amber eyes piercing the dark, their forms shifting like smoke caught in a storm. Eldric's heart pounded, his mind racing. The keeper's warning rang in his ears, "Beware the shadows on the cliffs. They are not what they seem." He didn't know what they were, ghosts, demons, or something worse, but he felt their hunger, their need, as if they were extensions of the stranger's will, or his master's. The map pulled him forward, its symbols twisting, pointing deeper into the lighthouse. He wanted to throw it away, to let it sink into the sea, but his hands wouldn't let go. It was part of him now, like a wound that wouldn't close. "Eldric, slow down," Lila called, her voice sharp but trembling. She grabbed his coat, yanking him back as the staircase leveled into a narrow hall. The walls here were different, not carved with spirals but with faces, stone faces, their eyes hollow, their mouths open in silent screams. The green light from the map made them seem alive, their features shifting as if in pain. Thom stopped, beside them, his knife still in hand, his eyes scanning the dark. "Those things are still coming," he said, his voice low. "I can hear them." Eldric listened, and there it was, a soft, scraping sound, like claws on stone, growing closer. The whispers were louder now, not just in the air but in his head, tugging at his thoughts. "Give it open the door." He shook his head, trying to focus. "We need to keep moving," he said, his voice hoarse. "The map's showing us a way." Lila's eyes narrowed, her face pale in the map's glow. "That map's leading us to our deaths. Eldric, you saw those things up there. You heard the keeper. This place wants us here, and not for anything good." "She's right," Thom said, his hand on Eldric's shoulder. "We need to find a way out, not go deeper." But Eldric's gaze was locked on the map. Its symbols had shifted again, forming a path that led to a door at the end of the hall. The glow pulsed faster, warmer, as if urging him forward. "You don't understand," he said, his voice barely his own. "It's not just a map, it's alive. It knows where we need to go." Lila's hand tightened on his arm. "Eldric, you're not making sense. You're acting like that stranger, like you're not in control." Her words stung, but they weren't wrong. Eldric felt the map's pull, a tide in his blood, drowning his thoughts. He thought of Mara, her smile fading in his memory, replaced by the stranger's amber eyes, the keeper's cold blue stare. He wanted to fight it, but the map was stronger, its will heavier than his own. The scraping grew louder, closer. Thom cursed, raising his knife. "Whatever we're doing, we need to do it now." Eldric nodded, moving toward the door at the end of the hall. It was iron, like the one at the lighthouse's base, but older, its surface pitted and stained with something, dark rust or blood. The map's glow flared as he approached, and the door groaned open before he touched it, revealing a chamber vast and cold, its ceiling lost in shadow. The air was damp, thick with the smell of salt and decay, and the floor was uneven, sloping downward toward a pool of black water that shimmered with green light. The chamber was alive with carvings, not just on the walls but on the floor, the ceiling, every surface etched with spirals, stars, and stranger shape size, hands, things that looked like both and neither. At the center of the pool stood a pedestal, and on it, a single object, a key, black as obsidian, glowing with the same light as the map. The whispers surged, a chorus now, filling the chamber with words Eldric couldn't fully grasp. "Key, door end." Lila's breath caught. "What is that?" Eldric didn't answer. He stepped forward, drawn to the key, the map pulsing in his hands. The water rippled as he approached, its surface reflecting not the chamber but a sky full of twisted stars, like the one they'd seen outside. Thom grabbed his arm, pulling him back. "Don't, Eldric, you don't know what it does." But the map was burning now, its heat searing his skin. Eldric yanked free, his eyes locked on the key. "It's what we came for," he said, though he wasn't sure if the words were his. "It's what the lighthouse wants." Before he could reach the pedestal, the scraping stopped, replaced by a low, guttural hum. The shadows were here. They poured into the chamber, their forms fluid, shifting between man and mist, their amber eyes glowing like lanterns. The stranger stood among them, his cloak still, his smile sharp. "You've done well, mapmaker," he said. "The key is close. Give me the map, and I'll spare your friends." Lila stepped forward, her lantern raised like a weapon. "Stay back," she snapped, her voice fierce despite the tremble in her hands. "We're not giving you anything." The stranger's eyes flicked to her, and for a moment, his smile faltered, as if he saw something in her he hadn't expected. "Brave," he said, "but foolish. The map is not yours to keep. It belongs to my master, and he will have it." Thom lunged, his knife flashing, but the stranger moved faster, his form blurring into shadow. The blade passed through him, hitting nothing but air. The other shadows surged, their claws raking the stone, their eyes burning. Eldric stumbled back, clutching the map, his mind a storm of fear and need. The key was so close, its glow calling to him, promising answers, promising an end. "Eldric!" Lila shouted, dodging a shadow's claw. She swung her lantern, and it shattered against the stone, the flame flaring briefly before dying. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the light, but they didn't stop. Thom fought beside her, his knife useless against their fluid forms, his face set in grim determination. Eldric reached the pedestal, his hand hovering over the key. The map was screaming now, its symbols spiraling into a single point, a door in his mind that wasn't there before. He saw it clearly, the door from his vision, black and vast, its edges fraying like torn cloth. Beyond it was nothing, and everything, a void that sang with voices older than the sea. "Don't!" Thom roared, tackling a shadow that lunged. "For Eldric, whatever that is, it's not worth it." But Eldric's hand closed around the key. It was cold, heavier than it looked, its surface smooth but alive, pulsing in time with the map. The chamber shook, the water surging, waves crashing against the walls. The whispers became a scream, and the shadows froze, their eyes wide, as if afraid. The stranger's smile vanished, replaced by something else, anger or fear. "You don't know what you've done," he said, his voice a hiss. "The door is waking." Eldric's vision blurred, the key and map burning in his hands. Images flooded his mindships, sinking into black seas. Stars falling like rain, a tower crumbling under a sky that bled green light. He saw Mara, her face clear for the first time in months, but her eyes were wrong, amber and cold, her voice a whisper that wasn't hers. "Open it." Lila grabbed him, pulling him away from the pedestal. Eldric snapped out of it. "We need to go." The chamber was collapsing now, stone cracking, water rising. The shadows surged again, but they were different, less solid. their forms unraveling like smoke. The stranger stood still, his eyes locked on Eldric, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You cannot run from the door, it will find you." Thom dragged Eldric toward a new passage that had opened in the wall, its edges rough, as if torn open by the chamber's shaking. Lila followed, her face streaked with dirt and fear. They ran, the key and map heavy in Eldric's hands, the whispers chasing them, the stranger's laughter fading but never gone. The passage was short, leading to a cliff overlooking the Black Sea, the wanderer bobbing below, somehow still there. They scrambled down the rocks, the shadows closed behind, their claws scraping the stone. The map's glow lit their path, its symbols shifting, pointing to the boat, to escape. They reached the wanderer and pushed off, the sea churning beneath them, the cliffs looming above. The shadows stopped at the edge, their eyes glowing, but they didn't follow. The stranger was gone, or hidden, his presence a weight in the air. As they sailed away, the lighthouse shrank behind them, its green light pulsing faintly. Eldric clutched the key and map, his hands trembling. He didn't know what they were, not really, but he felt their power, their purpose. The keeper had called the map a summons, the key a door. But to where? And why him? Lila sat beside him, her eyes hard. "You almost got us killed back there," she said. "What were you thinking, grabbing that key?" Eldric looked at her, then at the key, its black surface reflecting the twisted stars above. "I wasn't," he said. "It was like I had to, like it was calling me." Thom at the helm shook his head. "That thing's trouble. Both of them, we should throw them overboard." Eldric's hand tightened around the key. "No, we need them. The stranger's not done with us, and neither is the lighthouse. We need to know what they are." Lila's voice softened, but her eyes stayed sharp. "And what if they're leading us to something worse? What if that door the stranger talked about isn't meant to be opened?" Eldric didn't answer. He didn't have one. The map and key were silent now, their glow faint, but he felt their pull, a promise and a threat. The sea stretched ahead, the fog creeping back, and the whispers lingered, faint but ever present. The lighthouse was behind them, but it wasn't gone. It was waiting, and so was the stranger's master Dot, as the wanderer sailed into the dark. Eldric knew one thing: the shadows on the cliffs were only the beginning. Chapter 5. The starless tide. The wanderer glided over a sea that no longer felt like a sea. The water was black, smooth as glass, reflecting a sky where stars twisted and pulsed. Not with light, but with something alive, something watching. Eldric Voss clutched the obsidian map and the black key, their faint green glow the only light in the creeping fog that clung to the boat. The air was heavy, thick with salt and the sharp metallic scent that never left them now. Lila sat at the helm, her hands steady but her eyes restless, scanning the horizon for something, anything that wasn't the lighthouse. Thom, beside her, checked the sails, his broad frame tense, his knife still drawn, as if it could protect them from what followed. The shadows on the cliffs were gone, but their amber eyes lingered in Eldric's mind, burning like the stranger's. The keeper's warning echoed too. The map is a summons, a chain, a door. The key, cold and heavy in his hand, felt like a promise he didn't understand, a weight that pulled at his thoughts. He hadn't told Lila or Thom about the vision in the chamber, the door, vast and black, its edges fraying into a void that sang with voices he didn't know how. The map and key were changing him, whispering his name in the quiet moments, and he wasn't sure how much of himself was left. The fog thickened, swallowing the horizon, and a low hum rose from the water. Soft at first, like the buzz of distant bees, it grew louder, shaping into whispers that curled around them, not just in the air but in their heads. Eldric, key, door. Lila shivered, pulling her coat tighter. "It's back," she said, her voice low. "That sound, it's worse now." Thom nodded, his jaw tight. "It's not just sound. Look at the water." Eldric leaned over the rail, his breath catching. The sea wasn't just black, it was moving, not with waves but with patterns, spirals and stars like those on the map, glowing faintly green. They shifted, forming shapes that vanished when he blinked, like faces or hands reaching up from below. The hum grew, the whispers clearer, and the map pulsed in his hands, its symbols matching the patterns in the water. "This isn't right," Thom said, his voice rough. "We're not in our world anymore." Eldric's heart pounded. He felt it toothlessly. The sky, the fog weren't part of the world he knew. The lighthouse had pulled them somewhere else, a place where the rules were broken, where the stars watched and the sea sang. He held up the map, its glow cutting through the fog, and the symbols pointed ahead to a faint shape in the distance, not the lighthouse, but something smaller, jagged, like a shipwreck or a reef. "We need to go there," Eldric said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at him. "The map's showing us." Lila's eyes flashed, her hands gripping the helm. "No, we're not following that thing blindly anymore. You saw what happened in the lighthouse. Those shadows, that stranger there after the map, and now that key. We need to turn back." "There is no back," Eldric said, his voice sharper than he meant. "The lighthouse brought us here. The map's the only way out." Thom stepped between them, his knife glinting in the map's light. "Enough. We're not fighting each other." "But Lila's right, Eldric. That map's messing with you. You're not thinking straight." Eldric wanted to argue, but the words caught in his throat. He felt the map's pull, a tide in his blood, drowning his doubts. He thought of Mara, her face fading in his memory, replaced by the door from his vision. Its void calling him. The key was warm now, pulsing in time with the map, and he knew they weren't separate, they were one, pieces of something bigger, something that wanted to be whole. The hum surged, a wave of sound that shook the boat. The water churned, the patterns swirling faster, and the shape in the distance grew clearer, wrecked. Its hull splintered, its masts bent like broken bones. But it wasn't just a wreck. It glowed, green and faint, its timbers carved with the same symbols as the map. The whispers were a chorus now, loud enough to drown out the wind. "Eldric, bring it. The tide. We're going," Eldric said, his voice firm. He pointed to the wreck. "That's where the map wants us." Lila's face hardened, but she didn't argue. She adjusted the helm, guiding the wanderer toward the wreck, the fog parting just enough to show the way. Thom muttered a curse, but he readied the ropes, his eyes scanning the water for threats. The sea was alive now, its patterns pulsing in time with the map, and Eldric felt the key throb, as if it knew where they were going. As they neared the wreck, the air grew colder, the metallic scent sharper. The ship was old, its wood blackened and slick, but it wasn't abandoned. Shapes moved on its deck, not shadows like on the cliffs, but figures, faint and blurred, like ghosts caught in a dream. Their eyes glowed, not amber but white, like starlight, and their voices joined the whispers, soft and mournful. "Lost, lost." The tide. Lila's hands shook on the helm. "Eldric, what are they?" He didn't know. The map was burning now, its symbols pointing to the wreck center, where a hatch stood open, its edges glowing green. The key pulsed faster, hotter, and Eldric felt it in his bones, a need to go, to see, to know. He climbed onto the wreck, the wood creaking under his boots, Lila and Thom following reluctantly. The figures didn't move, but their eyes followed, their whispers louder, weaving his name into their song. The hatch led to a hold, dark and damp, its walls lined with more carving spirals, stars, and faces, their eyes hollow, their mouths open. At the center was a table, and on it, a book, its cover black and smooth, like the key. The map's glow flared as Eldric approached, and the book opened on its own, its pages blank but glowing, the light forming words that weren't there before. "The tide carries all to the end. The key opens the door. The map finds the way." Breath caught. The whispers were screaming now, not just in his head but in the air, the water, the wood. The figures on the deck were closer, their forms clear as sailors, their faces gaunt, their eyes burning with white light. They reached out, their hands passing through the air, not touching but pulling, as if they wanted the map, the key, or both. Thom grabbed Eldric's arm. "We need to leave. Now." But Eldric couldn't move. The book was calling him, its words shifting, forming a story he didn't want to read. It spoke of a sea that swallowed worlds, a tide that carried the lost to a door that should never open. It spoke of the lighthouse, not as a beacon but as a lock, holding back something vast, something hungry. And it spoke of him, Eldric Voss, the mapmaker, marked by pain, chosen by chance. Lila's voice cut through the whispers. "Eldric, they're coming." He turned, and the figures were in the hold now, their forms solidifying, their hands reaching. The book flared, its light blinding, and the key burned in Eldric's hand, its glow matching the map's. The whispers were a roar, the wreck shaking, the water rising through the cracks in the hull. Eldric grabbed the book, not knowing why, only that he had to. The moment he touched it, The figures screamed, a sound that tore at his mind, and the wreck began to collapse, its timbers splintering like dry twigs. "Run!" Thom shouted, pulling Eldric toward the hatch. Lila was already climbing, her face pale, her eyes wide. They scrambled onto the deck, the figures following, their hands clawing at the air. The Wanderer was still there, bobbing in the black sea, and they leapt aboard, Thom cutting the ropes as the wreck sank, its glow fading into the depths. The sea surged, waves crashing against the hull, and the whispers followed, fainter but not gone. Eldric clutched the map, the key, and the book, their combined weight pulling at him, their glow pulsing in time with his heart. Lila took the helm, steering them away from the wreck, the fog closing in again. Thom stood at the rail, his knife useless but ready, his eyes scanning the dark. "What was that book?" Lila asked, her voice shaking. "And those things." Eldric opened the book, its pages glowing, the words shifting. "It's a warning," he said, his voice hoarse, "or a guide. It talks about the tide, the door, the lighthouse. It says, we're part of it now." "Part of what?" Thom snapped. "This is madness, Eldric. We're sailing in a nightmare, and you're holding on to things that want us dead." Eldric didn't answer. He couldn't. The book's words were in his head now, not just read, but felt, like memories that weren't his. He saw the door again, black and vast, its void calling. He saw Mara, her face twisted, her voice not her own. He saw the lighthouse, its light not a beacon but a trap. The fog parted, and the lighthouse was there, closer than before, its green light pulsing like a wound. The map's symbols pointed to it, the key throbbed, and the book's words burned in his mind. The tide carries all to the end. Eldric knew they couldn't turn back, not now. The sea was alive, the stars were watching, and the lighthouse was waiting. As they sailed closer, the whispers grew, and Eldric felt the truth in his bones. The starless tide was rising, and it would carry them to the edge of the world. Chapter 6. The broken compass. The Wanderer drifted through a sea that seemed to breathe, its black surface rippling with faint green spirals, mirroring the symbols on Eldric Voss's obsidian map. The fog clung tight, a cold shroud that muffled sound and blurred the horizon, leaving only the lighthouse's sickly green glow to guide them. Eldric sat at the bow, the map key and book heavy in his lap, their combined light pulsing like a heartbeat. The key was cold, the map warm, and the book, its pages glowing with shifting words, felt alive, whispering truths he wasn't ready to hear. Lila manned the helm, her face set, her eyes flicking between the sea and Eldric, mistrust sharpening her gaze. Thom stood at the rail, his knife tucked away, but his hands restless, as if the air itself might turn on them. The whispers hadn't stopped. They wove through the fog, soft but relentless, threading Eldric's name into a chant that made his skin crawl. Eldric Ketor, tide. The book's words haunted him too, their warning clear. The tide carries all to the end. He'd seen the door in his visions, black and vast, a void that sang with voices older than the stars. The lighthouse loomed closer now, its tower sharp against the twisted sky, its light a wound in the dark. Eldric felt its pull, not just in the map but in his blood, as if he'd been born to find it. The Wanderer's compass spun wildly, its needle jerking between directions that didn't exist. Thom cursed, tapping the glass, but it didn't help. "This thing's useless," he said, tossing it onto the deck. "We're sailing blind." Lila's voice was sharp, cutting through the fog. "We're not blind. That map's leading us, whether we like it or not." Eldric glanced at her, then at the map. Its symbols had shifted again, pointing to the lighthouse. But now a new pattern emerged, a jagged line, like a crack, leading to a point just beyond the tower. The key pulsed in his hand, its glow matching the map's, and the book's pages fluttered, though there was no wind. He opened it, and new words formed, glowing green. "The compass breaks where the world bends. The tide pulls to the edge." "What does that mean?" Lila asked, leaning over his shoulder, her voice low but tense. "What edge?" Eldric shook his head, his throat tight. "I don't know. But the map's showing us something. Not just the lighthouse, something else." Thom snorted, his hands gripping the rail. "Great. More mysteries. As if we need more things trying to kill us." The sea surged, a sudden wave, rocking the boat. The whispers grew louder, and the fog parted, revealing a stretch of water that shimmered with green light. Shapes moved. Beneath the surface, not fish, not waves, but something larger, their forms blurred but alive, twisting like the symbols on the map. Eldric's heart raced, the key burning in his hand, and he saw it, a faint outline in the distance. Not the lighthouse, but a structure, low and broken, its stones jagged like teeth. "There," he said, pointing. "That's where we're going." Lila's eyes narrowed. "How do you know?" "The map," Eldric said, holding it up. Its symbols pulsed, the jagged line clearer now, pointing to the structure. The book's words shifted again. "The broken compass leads to the broken place. The key fits the lock no one sees." Thom grabbed the map, his face grim. "This thing's cursed, Eldric. You know it is. Why are we still following it?" Eldric yanked it back, his voice sharp. "Because we don't have a choice. You saw what happened on the wreck. Those shadows, the stranger, they're not stopping. The map's the only thing keeping us ahead of them." Lila stepped between them, her hands raised. "Enough. Fighting won't help." "But Thom's right, something's wrong with you, Eldric. You're too tied to that map. It's like it's inside you." Her words hit hard, and Eldric looked away, his gaze falling on the key. She wasn't wrong. The map and key were changing him, their whispers louder than his own thoughts. He saw Mara in his mind, her face fading, her eyes amber, her voice calling him to the door. He shook it off, focusing on the structure ahead. It was closer now, a ruin of black stone, its walls crumbling into the sea. The green light pulsed stronger, and the shapes in the water circled faster, their forms clearer, long, sinuous, with eyes that glowed white, like the ghosts on the wreck. The wanderers slowed as they neared the ruin, the sea unnaturally calm. The structure was a tower, or had been, its top sheared off, its base surrounded by a ring of jagged rocks. Carvings covered its stones, spirals, stars, and eyes, like those in the lighthouse. A single archway stood open, its edges glowing green, and the map's symbols pointed inside. "We're not going in there," Thom said, his voice flat. "Not after what happened last time." Eldric's hand tightened on the key. "We have two. The maps, showing us the book said the compass breaks where the world bends. This is the place." Lila's face was pale, but she nodded. "If we're doing this, we do it together. No running off, Eldric. You hear me?" He nodded, though the map's pull was stronger now, a tide in his veins. They anchored the wanderer, and waded ashore, the water cold and heavy, clinging to their legs. The shapes in the sea watched, their white eyes unblinking, but they didn't attack. The ruin loomed above, its stones humming with the same low vibration as the map. The whispers were everywhere, a chorus that drowned out the world. Eldric, key lock, edge. Inside the archway, the air was colder, the metallic scent sharper. The floor sloped downward, leading to a chamber lit by a faint green glow. At its center stood a pedestal, and on it, a compass knot, like the one on the wanderer, but larger, its surface black and smooth, its needle spinning wildly. The map's glow flared, the key pulsed, and the book's pages turned, revealing new words. "The broken compass points to the truth. The key unlocks the lie." Eldric approached the pedestal, his heart pounding. The compass's needle stopped, pointing not north but down, into the floor. The whispers surged, and the chamber shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Lila grabbed his arm, her voice sharp. "Eldric, don't touch it." But he couldn't stop. The key was burning, the map screaming, and the compass called to him, its needle a promise. He reached out, his fingers brushing the black surface, and the world shifted. The floor cracked, a seam of green light splitting it open, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. The whispers became a roar, and the shapes from the sea were there, slithering through the archway, their forms half solid, their eyes blazing. "Run!" Thom shouted, pulling Eldric back. But the shapes were fast, their bodies coiling, their claws raking the stone. Lila swung her lantern, its flame flaring briefly, and the creatures hissed, recoiling but not stopping. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their combined weight anchoring him as the chamber shook harder, stones falling, the staircase glowing brighter. The stranger's voice cut through the chaos, cold and sharp. "You cannot keep it, mapmaker. The key is mine." He stood in the archway, his amber eyes glowing, his cloak billowing in a wind that wasn't there. The shapes parted for him, their forms bowing, as if he were their master. Eldric's heart froze, the key burning in his hand. "What do you want with it?" he demanded, his voice shaking. The stranger's smile was a blade. "To open the door, to free my master, to end the lie." The chamber shook again, the staircase flaring, and Eldric saw at the door from his visions, black and vast, its edges fraying into a void. The compass's needle spun, the map's symbols spiraled, and the book's words burned. The truth is the edge, the lie is the world. Lila grabbed Eldric, dragging him toward the staircase. "We're not staying here." Thom followed, his knife slashing at a shape that lunged too close. They stumbled down the stairs, the green light blinding, the whispers deafening. The stranger's laughter chased them, mingling with the roar of the collapsing chamber. The staircase led to a tunnel, its walls pulsing with carvings, eyes, hands, all reaching for them. The map guided them, its glow cutting through the dark, the key throbbing, the book whispering. They emerged on a cliff, the sea below churning with shapes, the lighthouse in the distance, its light stronger, closer. The wanderer was gone, swallowed by the tide, but a new boat waited, a small skiff, its wood black and carved with spirals. Eldric didn't question it. They climbed aboard, the map pointing to the lighthouse, the key pulsing, the book's words clear. The tide carries all to the edge. Edge they rode. The shapes in the sea followed, their eyes watching, their whispers singing. The stranger was gone, but his presence lingered, a shadow in the fog. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their weight a chain, their glow a promise. The lighthouse was calling, and the broken compass had shown them the truth. The world was a lie, and the edge was near. Chapter 7. Echoes of the lost. The skiff sliced through the black sea, its oars creaking under Thom's steady pulls. The fog clung like a living thing, heavy with the metallic temps that burned Eldric Voss's throat. The obsidian map, key, and book rested in his lap, their green glow pulsing in time with the lighthouse's distant light, a beacon that seemed to grow sharper, hungrier, with every stroke. Lila sat at the bow, her eyes scanning the water, her hands gripping the skiff's edge, as if it might vanish beneath them. The shapes in the sea followed, their white eyes glowing through the fog, their sinuous forms weaving patterns that matched the map's spirals. The whispers were constant now, a chorus of voices weaving Eldric's name into words he couldn't fully grasp. Eldric, key, door, lost. The wanderer was gone, swallowed by the starless tide, and the skiff black, carved with symbols, appearing as if summoned felt wrong, like it belonged to the lighthouse, not them. Eldric's fingers traced the key's smooth surface, its cold weight, a contrast to the map's warmth. The book's pages fluttered in his lap, though no wind stirred the fog. Its words, glowing green, had shifted again. The lost call from the tide. The echoes lead to the door. He hadn't shared them with Lila or Thom. How could he? The visions were stronger now, flashes of the black door, its void singing, Mara's face twisted with amber eyes, her voice not her own. The map, key, and book were pulling him apart, and he wasn't sure how much was left. Lila's voice broke the silence, sharp and low. "Those things in the water, they're closer. They're watching us." Thom paused, his oars still, his face grim in the map's glow. "They're not attacking, not yet. But I don't trust this boat. It's too perfect." Eldric nodded, his throat tight. The skiff was unmarked, its wood smooth despite the sea's bite, its carvings pulsing faintly. It was as if the lighthouse had given it to them, a gift with strings they couldn't see. He looked at the map, its symbols pointing to a faint shape in the fog, not the lighthouse, but something smaller, a shadow that flickered like a memory. The key throbbed, the book's words burned, the echoes of the lost. "The lost are the key. We're not alone," Eldric said, his voice barely above the whispers. "The map's showing us something. There." He pointed to the shape, its edges sharpening as the fog parted, a cluster of rocks, jagged and black, rising from the sea like broken fingers. Figures stood on them, faint and blurred, their forms human but wrong, their eyes glowing white, like the shapes in the water. Breath caught. More of those ghosts, like on the wreck. Eldric shook his head. Not ghosts, something else. The book calls them the lost. Thom's jaw tightened. Great. More things that want us dead. We should turn back. "There is no back," Eldric said, his voice hollow. "The tide's pulling us. The map's pulling us." Lila's eyes flashed, her hands clenching. "Stop talking like that, Eldric. You sound like you're giving up. We're not part of this nightmare. We can fight it." But Eldric wasn't sure. The map's warmth was in his blood now, the key's weight in his bones. The book's words were his thoughts, whispering of doors and tides and endings. He saw Mara again, her face clear but her eyes wrong, calling him to the void. He shook it off, focusing on the rocks ahead. The figures were clearer now, men and women, their clothes tattered, their faces gaunt, their eyes burning with white light. They stood still, but their voices joined the whispers, a mournful chant that made the air heavy. Lost, lost, come. Thom rode toward the rocks, his movements reluctant but steady. If we're doing this, we do it fast, he said. In and out. The skiff bumped against the rocks, and Eldric stepped onto the slick stone. The map, key, and book clutched tight. The figures didn't move, but their eyes followed, their whispers louder, weaving his name into their song. The rocks were carved with spirals and stars, like the lighthouse, but these were worn, as if the sea had tried to erase them. At the center was a stone slab, its surface smooth, glowing faintly green. The map's symbols pointed to it. The key pulsed, and the book's pages turned, revealing new words. The lost speak through the stone. The key hears their truth. Eldric approached the slab, his heart pounding. The figures watched, their forms flickering, their voices a chorus. Now keyed or lost. He placed the key on the slab, and the stone flared, its glow blinding. The whispers became a scream, and the figures moved, their forms solidifying, their hands reaching. They weren't attacking, but pleading, their eyes wide with despair. Lila grabbed his arm. Eldric, what's happening? He didn't answer. The slab was alive now, its light pulsing in time with the map, the key, the book. Images flooded his mindships, sinking into black seas. Sailors reaching for stars that burned, towers crumbling under skies that bled. He saw faces, not just Mara's but others, countless others, their eyes white, their voices calling. They were the lost, trapped in the tide, bound to the lighthouse. The book's words burned. The lost are the key. The key is the door. Thom's voice was sharp, pulling him back. Eldric, they're closing in. The figures were nearer, their hands outstretched, their whispers a roar. Eldric grabbed the key, but it wouldn't move, fused to the slab as if part of it. The map flared, its symbols spiraling, and the book's pages turned, revealing a single line. The lost must be heard. The door must be opened. No, Eldric whispered, his voice shaking. He saw the door again, black and vast, its void singing. He saw Mara, her face twisted, her voice a command. Open it. The figures were touching him now, their hands cold, their eyes pleading. He felt their pain, their loss, their need to be free. Lila yanked him back, her strength surprising. Eldric, we're leaving now. But the slab shook, the rocks trembled, and the sea surged, waves crashing against the stone. The figures screamed, their forms dissolving into mist, their eyes lingering, burning white. The key came free, but the slab cracked, green light spilling from its seams. The whispers were deafening, a chorus of despair, and Eldric saw a door, not in his mind but ahead, in the fog, its edges fraying, its void calling. Thom dragged him to the skiff, Lila pushing off from the rocks. The figures didn't follow, but their voices did, their whispers weaving through the fog. The sea churned, the shapes beneath circling faster, their white eyes watching. The lighthouse was closer now, its green light a pulse that matched Eldric's heart. The map, key, and book were one, their glow a chain, their weight a promise. What did you see? Lila demanded, her voice sharp as she rode. What were those things? Eldric's voice was hoarse, barely his own. The lost people, who came before us, who found the map, the key. They're trapped here, in the tide, in the lighthouse. Thom's face was grim, his hands tight on the oars. And now we're part of it, aren't we? Eldric didn't answer. He didn't need to. The book's words were clear. The lost are the key. The key is the door. He saw them again, the faces, the hands, the eyes, all pleading for release. He saw Mara, her voice not hers, calling him to the void. The map pointed to the lighthouse. The key throbbed, and the book whispered, its words a truth he couldn't escape. The fog parted, and the lighthouse stood before them, its black stone gleaming, its light a wound in the sky. The sea was alive, the tide pulling them closer, the whispers singing of doors and endings. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their weight heavier than ever. The lost were calling, and the door was near. As the skiff drifted toward the island, the stranger's laughter echoed through the fog, a promise that the echoes of the lost were only the beginning. Chapter 8. The lanterns cursed a skiff glided toward the lighthouse, its black stone tower piercing the fog like a blade. The sea was a mirror of darkness, its surface alive with green spirals that pulsed in time with the obsidian map in Eldric Voss's hands. The key, cold and heavy, rested against his chest, its glow matching the books, which lay open in his lap, its pages fluttering with words that burned. The lantern lights the way. The curse binds the lost. The air was thick, heavy with salt, and the sharp, metallic temps that clung to their skin. Lila rode, her face pale but set, her eyes locked on the lighthouse's green light, a beacon that felt more like a trap. Thom sat beside her, his hands gripping the skiff's edge, his broad frame tense, as if ready to fight the sea itself. The whispers were relentless, weaving through the fog, calling Eldric's name with a hunger that made his bones ache. Key door, curse. The echoes of the lost still lingered in his mind, those gaunt figures on the rocks, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped in the tide. The book had called them the lost, bound to the lighthouse, and Eldric felt their weight, their pain, as if it were his own. Mara's face haunted him, her eyes amber now, her voice a command from the void. Open it. The map, key, and book were one, their glower chain pulling him closer to the tower. To the door he'd seen in his visions, black fraying void that sang with voices older than the world. The skiff bumped against the island's jagged shore, the rocks slick with moss and carved with spirals that glowed faintly green. The lighthouse loomed above, its stone black as night, its light pulsing like a wound. Eldric stepped onto the shore, the map burning in his hands, the key throbbing, the book whispering. Lila and Thom followed, their faces grim, their lanterns dim in the fog's heavy grip. We've been here before, Lila said, her voice low, almost lost in the whispers. Why are we back? Eldric's throat tightened. The map. It keeps bringing us here. The book says the lantern's cursed, that it lights the way but binds us. Thom's eyes narrowed, his hand on his knife. Binds us. To what? Those ghosts. That stranger. Eldric didn't answer. He couldn't. The map's symbols pointed to the lighthouse's iron door. Open now, its edges glowing green. The key pulsed, the book's words shifted. The lantern's light is the curse's chain. The key breaks the bond. He saw the door again, not in the tower but in his mind, vast and black, its void calling. He felt Mara's presence, her voice, not hers, urging him forward. They stepped inside, the air colder, heavier, the metallic scent sharper. The spiral staircase stretched upward, its walls alive with carvings, faces, eyes, hands, all reaching, all glowing. The whispers were louder, a chorus that shook the stone, and Eldric felt them in his chest, pulling him up. Lila grabbed his arm, her grip fierce. Eldric, you're not yourself. That map, that key, they're doing something to you. He looked at her, her face blurred in the green light. I know, he said, his voice hoarse, but we can't. Stop the lantern, it's the key to this. Thom's voice was rough, cutting through the whispers. If it's cursed, we don't touch it, we find another way. But there was no other way. The map's glow flared, the key burned, and the book's words were clear. The lantern binds the lost. The key sets them free. Eldric climbed the stairs, Lila and Thom close behind, their lanterns flickering as the green light grew stronger. The chamber at the top was the same, vast, circular, its ceiling lost in shadow. The lantern stood at its center, its cracked glass pulsing, its light a sickly green that made the air feel alive. The stranger was there, his amber eyes gleaming, his cloak still in a wind that didn't exist. You've brought them all, he said, his voice a low rumble. The map, the key, the book. My master will be pleased. Lila stepped forward, her lantern raised. Stay back. We're not giving you anything. The stranger's smile was cold, his eyes flicking to the key in Eldric's hand. You have no choice. The lantern's curse binds you, as it bound the lost. The key will open the door, and my master will rise. Eldric's heart pounded, the key burning, the map screaming. What is the curse? He demanded. What does it do? The stranger's eyes narrowed, his smile fading. The lantern lights the way to the door, but it traps those who seek it. The lost are its fuel, their souls bound to its light. You carry their key, mapmaker. You carry their freedom and their end. The book's pages turned, its words glowing. The curse is the light is the chain. Eldric saw the lost again, their white eyes, their pleading hands. He saw Mara, her face twisted, her voice calling. The lantern flared, its light blinding, and the chamber shook, the carvings on the walls writhing like snakes. The whispers became a scream, and Eldric felt them, the lost, their pain, their need. Trapped in the lantern's glow, he stepped toward the lantern, the key raised, its glow matching the light. Lila grabbed him, her voice sharp. "Eldric, don't. You heard him, it's a trap." But the key was pulling him, its weight a promise, its heat a command. He saw the door, closer now, its void singing. The stranger's laughter filled the chamber, cold and sharp. "Do it, mapmaker. Free them. Free yourself." Thom lunged at the stranger, his knife flashing, but the stranger dissolved into shadow, reappearing behind Eldric. "You cannot fight the tide," he said. "The lantern's curse is yours now." Eldric's hand trembled, the key hovering over the lantern. The book's words burned. The key breaks the bond. The door opens the end. He saw the lost, their faces clear sailors, mapmakers, wanderers, all drawn to the lighthouse, all trapped. He saw Mara, her eyes amber, her voice a plea. "Open it." He pressed the key to the lantern's glass, and the world erupted. The light flared, green and blinding, the chamber shaking, the carvings screaming. The whispers became a roar, and the lost appeared, their forms filling the chamber, their white eyes blazing. They reached for Eldric, their hands cold, their voices pleading, "Free us." Lila pulled him back, her strength fierce. "Eldric, stop. You're killing us." But the key was locked to the lantern, its glow merging with the light. The stranger's laughter grew, the chamber cracking, the floor splitting. The lost surged, their forms dissolving into the light, their voices a chorus of despair. Eldric saw the door, not in his mind but before him, black and vast, its edges fraying, its void singing. Thom tackled him, breaking his grip on the key. The lantern dimmed, the light fading, but the door remained, its presence heavy, its song louder. The stranger was gone, but his voice lingered. "You've begun it, mapmaker. The door is waking." The chamber stilled, the lost gone, the whispers faint but not silent. The key was in Eldric's hand again, its glow dim, the map and book quiet but heavy. Lila's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear and anger. "What did you do?" she whispered. Eldric's voice was hoarse, his hands shaking. I don't know." The lost there in the lantern, trapped. The key was supposed to free them. Thom's jaw tightened, his knife still drawn. "And that door, you saw it, didn't you? That's what he wants. That's what his master wants." Eldric nodded, the void's song still in his ears. The book's pages turned, its words clear. "The curse binds the lost. The door frees the master." He saw Mara again, her face fading, her voice a command. The map pointed to a new passage, its symbols shifting, the key pulsing, the book whispering. They fled the chamber, the staircase trembling beneath them. The lighthouse was alive, its walls pulsing, its light a chain. They emerged on the shore, the skiff waiting, its carvings glowing faintly. The sea churned, the shapes beneath watching, their white eyes unblinking. The lighthouse loomed behind, its light pulsing, its curse unbroken. As they rode away, the whispers followed, the stranger's laughter, faint but ever present. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their weight a burden he couldn't escape. The door was closer now, its void calling, and the lantern's curse was theirs. Chapter 9. Beneath the endless waves, the skiff rocked on the black sea, its carved wood groaning as if it felt the weight of the lighthouse's gaze. Eldric Voss clutched the obsidian map, key, and book, their green glow dim but pulsing, a heartbeat, in the fog that wrapped them like a shroud. The air was thick, heavy with salt, and the sharp metallic temps that stung his lungs. Lila rode, her hands steady but her face pale, her eyes darting to the water where shapes moved beneath, their white eyes glowing like lanterns in the deep. Thom sat at the stern, his broad frame hunched, his knife tucked away but his hands restless, as if the sea might rise and swallow them. The whispers were softer now, a low hum weaving Eldric's name into words that chilled his blood. Eldric, key, door. Beneath the lantern's curse lingered in his mind, its light a chain binding the lost, those gaunt figures with white eyes, their voices trapped in the tide. The book's words haunted him. The curse binds the lost. The door frees the master. He'd seen the door, black and vast, its void singing with voices older than the stars. Mara's face flickered in his thoughts, her eyes amber, her voice a command from the void. Open it. The map, key, and book were pulling him apart. Their weight, a promise and a threat, and he felt less like himself with every passing moment. The lighthouse was behind them, its green light, a faint pulse in the fog, but its presence was heavy, like a hand on his shoulder. The map's symbols had shifted, pointing not to the tower, but downward, into the sea. The key throbbed, the book's pages fluttered, revealing new words. Beneath the waves lies the truth. The key unlocks the deep. Eldric's heart pounded, the void's song louder now, calling him to a place he didn't want to go. Lila's voice, cut through the fog, sharp and low. The water's changing. Look, Eldric leaned over the skiff's edge, his breath catching. The sea was no longer smooth but churning, its black surface alive with green spirals that pulsed in time with the map. Shapes moved faster beneath, their forms clear, long, sinuous, with eyes that burned white, their bodies coiling like eels but larger. Wrong. The whispers grew, a chorus that shook the air. Eldric beneath. Door. Thom's face was grim, his hands gripping the skiff. They're circling us, like they're waiting. Eldric nodded, his throat tight. The map's glow flared, its symbols pointing to a spot in the water where the spirals were brightest, a vortex of green light that seemed to pull at the sea itself. The key burned, the book's words clear. The deep holds the secret. The key opens the way. We need to go down, Eldric said, his voice hoarse. The map's showing us. Lila's eyes widened, her hands freezing on the oars. Down, into the water. Are you mad? Thom's voice was rough, his hand on his knife. She's right. Those things are down there. You saw them. We're not diving into that. But Eldric's gaze was locked on the vortex. The map's pull stronger than his fear. We don't have a choice. The book says, the truth is beneath. The key. It's meant for something down there. Lila's face hardened, her voice sharp. And what if it's another trap? Like the lantern, like the wreck. You're not thinking, Eldric. That map's got you twisted. Her words stung, but they weren't wrong. The map was in his blood, the key in his bones, the book's words in his thoughts. He saw Mara again, her face fading, her voice a command. Open it. He shook his head, focusing on the vortex. We can't run from it, he said. The lighthouse won't let us. The stranger won't let us. Thom cursed, his eyes scanning the water. If we go down there, we're dead. You know that, but the sea decided for them. The vortex surged, a wave of black water crashing over the skiff, pulling it under. Eldric grabbed the map, key, and book, their glow cutting through the dark as the sea swallowed them. The water was cold, heavy, pressing against his chest, but he didn't sink. The map's light held him, the key's weight anchored him, and the book's words guided him, their glow forming a path through the deep. Lila and Thom were beside him, their faces pale, their eyes wide with fear. The water wasn't water, was thick, alive, pulsing with green light. Shapes circled them, their white eyes watching, their forms weaving through the spirals. The whispers were deafening now, a chorus that shook his bones. Eldric key. Beneath door, the map led them downward, to a structure rising from the sea's floor, a temple, its black stone carved with spirals, stars, and eyes, its arches glowing green. The key throbbed, the book's pages turned, revealing new words. The deep hides the lock. The key opens the truth. Eldric swam toward it, the map pulling him, the water parting as if it knew him. Lila and Thom followed, their movements slow, their faces grim. Inside the temple, the air was dry, impossibly so, the water held back by an unseen force. The chamber was vast, its walls alive with carvings, ships sinking, stars falling, figures reaching for doors that burned. At its center was a stone altar, and on it, a lock, black and smooth, glowing green. The key in Eldric's hand flared, its light matching the lock's, and the book's words burned. The lock holds the deep. The key breaks the chain. Eldric approached the altar, his heart pounding. The whispers were a scream now, the shapes from the sea circling outside, their white eyes pressing against the temple's walls. Lila grabbed his arm, her voice sharp. Eldric, don't, you don't know what it'll do. But the key was burning, its pull stronger than her words. He saw the door again, black and vast, its void singing. He saw Mara, her eyes amber, her voice a plea. Open it. The lost were there too, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped in the tide. The book's words were clear. The key breaks the chain. The door frees the deep. He pressed the key to the lock, and the temple shook, green light flooding the chamber. The carvings screamed, their faces twisting, their eyes blazing. The whispers became a roar, and the shapes outside surged, their forms breaking through the walls, their claws raking the stone. The stranger's voice cut through the chaos, cold and sharp. "You've done it, mapmaker. The door is near." Eldric turned, and the stranger was there, his amber eyes gleaming, his cloak billowing in a wind that wasn't there. The shapes bowed to him, their forms coiling, their eyes burning. "Give me the key," he said. "My master waits." Lila lunged, her lantern swinging, but the stranger dissolved into shadow, reappearing behind Eldric. Thom's knife flashed, but it passed through nothing. The stranger's laughter filling the chamber. The lock flared, the key fused to it, and the altar cracked, green light spilling from its seams. The door appeared, not in Eldric's mind, but before them, black and vast, its edges fraying, its void singing. The shapes screamed, their forms dissolving into the light, their white eyes fading. The lost were there, their voices pleading, their hands reaching. Eldric felt their pain, their need, their curse. The book's words burned. The deep is the door. The door is the end. Lila pulled him back, her strength fierce. Eldric were leaving now, but the temple was collapsing, the walls cracking, the water rushing in. Thom grabbed the key, yanking it free, and the lock dimmed, the door fading but not gone. The stranger's laughter followed, cold and sharp. "You cannot stop it. The door is waking." They swam upward, the map guiding them, the key pulsing, the book's words clear. The shapes followed, their claws grazing their legs, their eyes burning. They broke the surface, the skiff waiting, its carvings glowing. They climbed aboard, the sea churning, the lighthouse closer now, its light a wound in the sky. As they rode, the whispers lingered, the stranger's laughter faint but ever present. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their weight a chain, their glow a promise. The door was near, its void calling, and the endless waves were rising. Chapter 10. The sky that felt the skiff trembled beneath the churning black sea, its carved wood groaning as if it sensed the weight of the lighthouse's looming presence. Eldric Voss gripped the obsidian map, key, and book, their green glow pulsing faintly, a heartbeat in the suffocating fog. The air was thick, laced with the metallic tempth that burned his throat, and the whispers wove through it, relentless and cold, threading his name into a chant that shook his bones. Eldric, key, door, sky. Lila rode with fierce determination, her face pale, her eyes darting between the water and the horizon, where the lighthouse's sickly green light pierced the dark. Thom sat at the stern, his broad hands clenched, his gaze fixed on the sea where shapes slithered beneath, their white eyes glowing like stars in a void. The book's words haunted Eldric, their glow searing his mind. The deep is the door. The sky is the lie. The temple beneath the waves had changed everything. The door, black, vast, fraying at its edges, had been real, not just a vision, and its void had sung with voices that weren't human. Mara's face lingered in his thoughts, her eyes amber, her voice a command from that void. Open it. The lost were there too, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped in the tide, bound by the lantern's curse. The map, key, and book were one, their weight a chain pulling him toward the lighthouse, toward the door he feared but couldn't escape. The sky above was wrong, not a sky at all, but a tapestry of twisted stars, pulsing and shifting, their light, cold and sharp. They weren't stars, Eldric knew now, they were eyes, watching, waiting. The fog parted, and the lighthouse stood closer than ever, its black stone tower gleaming like wet ink, its green light a wound that pulsed in time with the map. But something else caught his eye, a crack in the sky, a jagged tear where the stars bled green, their light spilling like rain. Lila's voice was sharp, cutting through the whispers. "What's that, above us?" Eldric looked up, his heart lurching. The tear was growing, its edges fraying like the door in his visions, and through it he saw not sky but void, black, endless, alive with voices. The book's pages fluttered, revealing new words. The sky falls where the door rises. The key breaks the lie. The key in his hand burned, its glow matching the maps, and the whispers surged, a chorus that shook the skiff. Eldric, sky, door. Thom's face was grim, his hands gripping the skiff's edge. That's no storm. That's something else. Eldric nodded, his throat tight. The map's symbols had shifted, pointing not to the lighthouse but to the tear in the sky, its green light pulsing like a heart. The key throbbed, the book's words clear. The lie is above, the truth is below. He saw the door again, its void closer, its song louder, and Mara's face, her amber eyes pleading, her voice a command. "Open it. We need to go there," Eldric said, pointing to the tear. "The map's showing us." Lila's eyes widened, her hands freezing on the oars. "Up there, into that. You've lost it, Eldric." Thom's voice was rough, his hand on his knife. "She's right. We barely survived the temple. Now you want to sail into the sky." But Eldric's gaze was locked on the tear. The map's pull stronger than his fear. "It's not the sky, it's something else. The book says the sky's a lie. The map's pointing to the truth." Lila's face hardened, her voice sharp. "And what if it's another trap? Like the lantern, the temple, the wreck? You're not you anymore, Eldric. That map's got you." Her words cut deep, but they weren't wrong. The map was in his blood, the key in his bones, the book's words in his thoughts. He saw Mara, her face fading, her voice a plea from the void. He shook his head, focusing on the tear. "We can't run," he said. "The lighthouse won't let us. The door's waking, and we're part of it." The sea surged, a wave crashing over the skiff, and the tear in the sky flared, its green light blinding. The whispers became a scream, and the shapes beneath the water circled faster, their white eyes burning. The skiff shook, its carvings glowing, and Eldric felt it a pull, not from the sea but from above, as if the tear was calling him. Thom grabbed the oars, his face set. "If we're doing this, we do it fast. But I don't like it." Lila nodded, her hands trembling but steady. "Together, then. No running off." Eldric the skiff moved toward the tear, the sea rising, the waves pushing them upward, impossibly, toward the sky. The fog parted, and the tear loomed larger, its edges fraying, its void singing. The map's glow flared, the key burned, and the book's words shifted. The sky falls, the door rises. The key is the truth. As they neared, the sea dropped away, and the skiff floated, not on water but on air, drawn into the tear. The world shifted, the sky folding around them, the stars' eyes watching, their light cold and sharp. The whispers were deafening, a chorus of voices, not just the lost but something older, deeper. Eldric, key, sky, door. They emerged, in a place that wasn't a place, a vast expanse of black, dotted with green-lit shards, like broken glass floating in a void. The lighthouse was there, its tower piercing the darkness, its light a pulse that shook the air. But it wasn't alone. Structures floated around its towers, ships, ruins, all carved with spirals and stars, all glowing green. The book's words burned. The sky is the lie. The truth is the void. Eldric's heart pounded, the key burning, the map screaming. He saw the door, not ahead but everywhere, its black edges fraying, its void singing. The lost were there, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped in the shards. Mara's face appeared, her amber eyes cold, her voice a command. "Open it." Lila's voice was sharp, pulling him back. "Eldric, what is this place?" He didn't know. The map pointed to a shard, larger than the others, its surface smooth, glowing green. The key throbbed, the book's words clear. The shard holds the lie, the key breaks the sky. Eldric moved toward it, the skiff drifting through the void, the whispers a roar. The shard was a mirror, its surface reflecting not their faces but the door, black and vast, its void singing. The stranger appeared, his amber eyes gleaming, his cloak billowing in the void. "You've come far, mapmaker," he said, his voice cold. "The key is yours, but it belongs to my master. Give it to me, and the lie ends." Lila lunged, her lantern swinging, but the stranger dissolved into shadow, reappearing on the shard. Thom's knife flashed, but it passed through nothing. The stranger's laughter filling the void. The shapes from the sea were there, forms coiling through the shards, their white eyes burning. The whispers screamed, the map flared, and the key burned, its glow matching the shards. Eldric raised the key, his hand trembling. The book's words were clear. The key breaks the sky. The door is the truth. He saw the lost, their faces pleading, their voices trapped. He saw Mara, her voice a command. "Open it." He pressed the key to the shard, and the void erupted, green light flooding the expanse, the shards shattering, the whispers roaring. The door appeared, black and vast, its edges fraying, its void singing. The stranger's laughter grew, the shapes surged, and the lighthouse's light flared, blinding. Lila grabbed Eldric, pulling him back, her voice sharp. "Eldric, stop, you're opening it." But the key was fused to the shard, its glow merging with the light. The lost screamed, their forms dissolving into the void, their white eyes fading. The book's words burned. The sky falls. The door rises. The stranger's voice cut through the chaos. "You've done it, mapmaker." The master wakes. The void shook, the shards falling, the lighthouse trembling. Thom yanked the key free, the shard dimming, the door fading but not gone. They stumbled back to the skiff, the void collapsing, the whispers deafening. The skiff fell, the sea rushing. Up to meet them, the lighthouse's light pulsing in the distance. They landed on the Black Sea, the skiff intact, the fog closing in. The shapes beneath watched, their white eyes unblinking. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their weight heavier than ever. The door was near, its void calling, and the sky that fell was only the beginning. Chapter 11. The door beyond the light. The skiff bobbed on the Black Sea, its carved wood slick with mist, trembling as if it felt the lighthouse's pull. Eldric Voss clutched the obsidian map, key, and book, their green glow faint but pulsing, a heartbeat against the suffocating fog. The air was heavy, thick with salt and the sharp metallic temps that clawed at his lungs. Lila rowed, her hands steady but her face pale, her eyes locked on the lighthouse's green light, a wound in the twisted sky. Thom sat at the stern, his broad frame tense, his hands gripping the skiff's edge, his knife tucked away but ready. The whispers wove through the fog, relentless, weaving Eldric's name into a chant that shook his core. Eldric key, door. Beyond the sky that fell still haunted him the void, the shards, the door, black and vast, its edges fraying, its song a chorus of voices older than time. Mara's face lingered, her amber eyes cold, her voice a command from that void. "Open it." The lost were there too, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped in the tide, bound by the lantern's curse. The book's words burned in his mind. The sky falls. The door rises. The map, key, and book were one, their weight a chain pulling him toward the lighthouse, toward the door he couldn't escape. The sea was alive, its black surface rippling with green spirals that matched the map's symbols. Shapes moved beneath, their white eyes glowing, their sinuous forms circling, watching. The fog parted, and the lighthouse loomed closer, its black stone tower gleaming, its light pulsing like a heart. But something was different. A shadow, vast and formless, stretched across the sea, not cast by the tower but by something beyond, something in the sky. Lila's voice was sharp, cutting through the whispers. "What's that shadow? It's not right." Eldric looked up, his heart lurching. The sky was cracked, a jagged tear from before, but now it pulsed with green light, its edges fraying like the door in his visions. The shadow moved, not with the wind but with purpose, its form shifting. Hands, faces, all glowing faintly, all watching. The book's pages fluttered, revealing new words. The door is beyond the light. The key is the end. The key in his hand burned, its glow matching the maps, and the whispers surged, a chorus that shook the skiff. Eldric door. Beyond Thom's face was grim, his hands clenched. "That's no shadow. It's alive." Eldric nodded, his throat tight. The map's symbols pointed to the lighthouse, but now they spiraled inward, toward a point at its base where the sea met the stone. The key throbbed, the book's words clear. "The light hides the door. The key reveals the truth." He saw the door again, its void closer, its song louder, and Mara's face, her amber eyes pleading, her voice a command. "Open it." "We need to go to the base," Eldric said, pointing to the tower. "The map's showing us." Lila's eyes widened, her hands freezing on the oars. "Back to the lighthouse. After everything." "Eldric, you're not thinking." Thom's voice was rough, his hand on his knife. "She's right. That place nearly killed us. The lantern, the temple, the sky. We can't keep following that map." But Eldric's gaze was locked on the tower, the map's pull stronger than his fear. "It's not about the lighthouse. It's about the door." The book says it's beyond the light. The key, it's for that. Lila's face hardened, her voice sharp. And what if it's the end? You heard the stranger. His master wants that door open. You're playing into his hands. Her words cut deep, but they weren't wrong. The map was in his blood, the key in his bones, the book's words in his thoughts. He saw Mara, her face fading, her voice a plea from the void. He shook his head, focusing on the tower. We can't stop, he said. The door's waking. We're part of it now. The sea surged, a wave rocking the skiff, and the shadow in the sky moved, its eyes gleaming, its form stretching toward the lighthouse. The whispers became a scream, and the shapes beneath the water circled faster, their white eyes burning. The skiff shook, its carvings glowing, and Eldric felt it a pull, not from the sea but from the tower, as if the door itself was calling. Thom grabbed the oars, his face set. If we're doing this, we do it together. But I'm not dying for that key. Lila nodded, her hands trembling but steady. No running off. Eldric, we're in this. But you're not alone. The skiff moved toward the island, the sea pushing them, the waves rising. The fog parted, and the lighthouse stood before them, its green light blinding, its shadow heavy. The shadow in the sky followed, its form shifting, its eyes watching. The map's glow flared, the key burned, and the book's words shifted. The door is the end. The key is the truth. They reached the shore, the rocks slick and carved with spirals, stars, and eyes. The lighthouse's iron door was open, its edges glowing green, and the map pointed inside, to a passage at its base, not up, but down. Whispers were deafening, a chorus of voices, not just the lost, but something older, deeper. Eldric key, door, beyond. They stepped inside, the air colder, heavier, the metallic scent sharper. The passage sloped downward, its walls alive with carvings, ships sinking, stars falling, figures reaching for doors that burned. The map guided them, its glow cutting through the dark, the key pulsing, the book whispering. The passage ended in a chamber, small and round, its walls smooth, its floor a pool of black water that shimmered with green light. At its center was a stone slab, and on it a door, not iron, not wood, but black and smooth, glowing green, its edges fraying like the void in Eldric's visions. The stranger stood before it, his amber eyes gleaming, his cloak billowing in a wind that wasn't there. You've brought it, he said, his voice cold. The key, the map, the book. My master waits beyond. Lila stepped forward, her lantern raised. Stay back, we're not giving you anything. The stranger's smile was sharp, his eyes flicking to the key in Eldric's hand. You have no choice. The door is waking. The key is its truth. Eldric's heart pounded, the key burning, the map screaming. What's beyond the door? He demanded. What does your master want? The stranger's eyes narrowed, his smile fading. Freedom. The end of the lie. The world is a cage, mapmaker, and my master will break it. The book's pages turned, its words glowing. The door is the end. The key is the truth. Eldric saw the lost, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped. He saw Mara, her amber eyes cold, her voice a command. Open it. The door pulsed, its void singing, and the chamber shook, the water rising, the carvings screaming. He stepped toward the door, the key raised, its glow matching the slabs. Lila grabbed him, her voice sharp. Eldric, don't. You're giving him what he wants. But the key was pulling him, its weight a promise, its heat a command. He saw the door, its void closer, its song louder. The stranger's laughter filled the chamber, cold and sharp. It, mapmaker, free my master. Thom lunged at the stranger, his knife flashing, but the stranger dissolved into shadow, reappearing behind Eldric. You cannot fight the tide, he said. The door is the truth. Eldric's hand trembled, the key hovering over the door. The book's words burned. The key is the truth, the door is the end. He saw the lost, their faces pleading, their voices trapped. He saw Mara, her voice a command. Open it. He pressed the key to the door, and the world erupted. Green light flooded the chamber, the carvings screaming, the water surging. The door flared, its edges fraying, its void singing. The lost appeared, their forms filling the chamber, their white eyes blazing. They reached for Eldric, their hands cold, their voices pleading. Free us. The stranger's laughter grew, the chamber shaking, the door opening, its void spilling out. Lila pulled Eldric back, her strength fierce. Eldric, stop. You're killing us. but the key was fused to the door, its glow merging with the light. The lost screamed, their forms dissolving into the void, their white eyes fading. The books, words burned, the door is the end, the truth is the void. The stranger's voice cut through the chaos. You've done it, mapmaker. The master rises. The chamber collapsed, the walls cracking, the water rushing in. Thom yanked the key free, the door dimming, the void fading but not gone. They ran, the map guiding them, the key pulsing, the book whispering. The passage shook, the carvings falling, the whispers deafening. They emerged on the shore, the skiff waiting, its carvings glowing. The sea churned, the shapes beneath watching, their white eyes unblinking. The lighthouse loomed, its light pulsing, its door awake. As they rowed away, the stranger's laughter followed, faint but ever present. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their weight a chain, their glow a promise. The door was open, and the end was near. Chapter 12. The end of all maps. The skiff shuddered on the black sea, its carved wood creaking as waves slammed against its hull. Eldric Voss gripped the obsidian map, key, and book, their green glow dim but pulsing, a dying heartbeat in the suffocating fog. The air was thick with salt and the sharp metallic temps that burned his throat, now laced with something new decay, old and cold, like a grave beneath the waves. Lila rowed, her hands trembling but fierce, her face pale as she stared at the lighthouse, its green light a wound in the twisted sky. Thom clung to the stern, his broad frame hunched, his eyes scanning the water where shapes coiled beneath, their white eyes glowing like ghosts in the deep. The whispers were a roar now, a chorus weaving Eldric's name into words that tore at his soul. Eldric key, door, end. The door beyond the light had opened, its black void spilling into the world, its song a cacophony of voices older than time. Mara's face haunted him, her amber eyes cold, her voice a command from that void. Open it. The lost were there too, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped in the tide, bound by the lantern's curse. The book's words burned in his mind. The door is the end. The truth is the void. The map, key, and book were one, their weight, a chain pulling him toward the lighthouse, toward the end he couldn't escape. The sea churned, waves rising, green spirals pulsing in time with the map. The sky was shattered, its cracks bleeding green light, the stars' eyes watching their gaze, heavy and hungry. The lighthouse loomed closer, its black stone tower gleaming like wet bone, its light a pulse that shook the air. The shadow from the sky was gone, but its presence lingered, a weight that pressed on Eldric's chest. The book's pages fluttered, revealing new words. The end is the door. The key is the choice. The key in his hand burned, its glow matching the maps, and the whispers screamed, a chorus that drowned out the world. Eldric door end. Lila's voice was sharp, barely audible over the waves. It's closer, too close. We can't keep going back. Eldric's throat tightened, his gaze locked on the tower. We're not going back. The map's done guiding us. This is it. Thom's face was grim, his hands clenched. The end. That's what you're chasing. After everything, those shadows, the lost, that door, you're still following that cursed map. Eldric didn't answer. The map's pull was stronger than ever, a tide in his blood, the key a fire in his bones, the book's words a truth. He couldn't deny. He saw Mara, her face fading, her voice a plea from the void. He saw the door, its edges fraying, its song louder than ever. The map's symbols spiraled inward, pointing to the lighthouse's base, where the sea met the stone, where the door had stood. The skiff slammed against the shore, the rocks slick with moss and carved with spirals, stars and eyes, all glowing green. The lighthouse towered above, its light blinding, its presence a weight that crushed the air. The whispers were deafening, a chorus of the lost, the sea, the void. Eldric key, door, end. The map flared, the key burned, and the book's words were clear. The choice is yours. The end is all. They stepped onto the shore, the sea surging behind them, the shapes beneath circling, their white eyes unblinking. The iron door was open, its edges glowing, and the map pointed inside, to the chamber where the door had appeared. Lila grabbed Eldric's arm, her grip fierce. Eldric, this is it. Whatever you're planning, you tell us now. He looked at her, her face blurred in the green light. The door's open, he said, his voice hoarse. The key, it's the choice. to end it or let it begin. Thom's voice was rough, his hand on his knife. End what? That stranger's master. The void. You're talking in riddles, Eldric. But Eldric was already moving, the map pulling him through the door, down the passage to the chamber. The air was colder, heavier, the metallic scent mixed with decay, sharp and sickening. The walls were alive with carvings, ships sinking, stars falling, figures reaching for doors that burned. The chamber was small, the black water pool at its center shimmering green, and the door stood on its stone slab, black and vast, its edges fraying, its void singing. The stranger was there, his amber eyes gleaming, his cloak billowing in a wind. That wasn't there. You've brought it, he said, his voice a low rumble. The key, the map, the book. The choice is yours, mapmaker. Lila stepped forward, her lantern raised, its flame flickering. Get back, we're done with your games. The stranger's smile was cold, his eyes locked on There are no games. The door is open. My master waits. Choose, mapmaker, free him, or bind him. Eldric's heart pounded, the key burning, the map screaming, the book's words clear. The choice is yours. The end is all. He saw the lost, their white eyes pleading, their voices trapped. He saw Mara, her amber eyes cold, her voice a command. Open it. The door pulsed, its void singing, and the chamber shook, the water surging, the carvings screaming. What happens if I choose? Eldric demanded, his voice shaking. What's beyond the door? The stranger's eyes narrowed, his smile fading. The truth, the end of the lie. The world is a cage, mapmaker, and my master will break it. Choose, and be free. Lila's voice was sharp, cutting through the whispers. Don't listen to him, Eldric. He's been pushing you to this from the start. That door, it's not freedom, it's death. Thom stepped beside her, his knife drawn. She's right. Whatever's beyond that door, it's not for us. Throw the key away. End this. But Eldric's hand trembled, the key hovering over the door. The book's words burned. The choice is yours. The end is all. He saw the lost, their faces pleading, their voices trapped. He saw Mara, her voice a command. Open it. The door was alive, its void calling, its song a promise and a threat. He stepped forward, the key raised, its glow matching the doors. The stranger's laughter filled the chamber, cold and sharp. Do it, mapmaker. Free my master. Lila lunged, grabbing his arm, her strength fierce. Eldric, no. You're giving him what he wants. But the key was pulling him, its weight a promise, its heat a command. He saw the door, its void closer, its song deafening. The lost screamed, their forms filling the chamber, their white eyes blazing. The stranger's voice cut through the chaos. Choose, mapmaker. The end is now. Eldric's hand shook, the key touching the door. The world erupted, green light flooding the chamber, the carvings screaming, the water surging. The door flared, its void spilling out, a black tide that swallowed the light. The lost surged, their hands cold, their voices pleading. Free us. But something in Eldric snapped. He saw Mara, her real face, not the amber-eyed shadow, her smile warm, her hand in his. He saw the lost, not as ghosts but as people, trapped, suffering. He saw the stranger, his smile a lie, his master a hunger. The book's words burned. The choice is yours. He yanked the key back, the door dimming, the void retreating. The stranger's laughter stopped, his eyes wide with rage. No, he roared, his form shifting, shadow and flesh merging, his claws reaching. Thom lunged, his knife slashing, and this time it struck, drawing a line of black blood. The stranger hissed, dissolving into shadow, but his voice lingered. You cannot. Stop it. The door is awake. The chamber shook, the walls cracking, the water rising. Lila pulled Eldric back, her voice sharp. We're leaving now. They ran, the map guiding them, the key pulsing, the book whispering. The passage collapsed behind them, the carvings falling, the whispers deafening. They emerged on the shore, the skiff waiting, its carvings glowing. The sea churned, the shapes beneath surging, their white eyes burning. The lighthouse loomed, its light pulsing, its door awake but not open. As they rowed away, the stranger's voice faded, the whispers softening. Eldric clutched the map, key, and book, their weight lighter now, their glow dim. The door was still there, its void singing, but he'd made his choice. The lighthouse shrank behind them, the fog closing in, the sea calming. Lila looked at him, her eyes soft but fierce. "You did it, Eldric, you stopped." He nodded, his throat tight. For now, Thom's voice was rough, but there was a hint of relief. "What's next?" Eldric looked at the map, its symbols still, the key cold, the book silent. "We find a way to destroy them. The map, the key, the book. We end this." The sea stretched ahead, the fog heavy, the whispers faint but ever present. The lighthouse was behind them, but its light lingered, a promise and a threat. The door was awake, and the end was near, but Eldric had chosen not to open it, but to fight it. As the skiff vanished into the fog, the whispers sang, soft and mournful, a song of the lost, the tide, and the choice that saved the world for now.